everyone that has joined already, I appreciate you making it today. We've got a great, webinar today with Drew from PCR and Maggie from Ship Hero. We're going to be showing you guys how to execute on your best Black Friday, Cyber Monday ever, as it's titled. So hopefully we can share some good information and from a couple different perspectives, really. And I'll go ahead. I'll share the presentation here in a sec. But really from Maggie's kicking us off with the supply chain perspective, and I'll let Maggie introduce herself as she gets kicked off with the presentation. But as COO of Ship Hero, really kind of talking about the trends they're seeing, not only just holistically from Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but also how the supply chain, that repeating trend or that repeating issue of the strain there on the supply chain, how automation kind of help reduce errors, optimize routes, things like that. I'm going to go in from my perspective, from a dropship software perspective, and talk about how dropship can help you expand your catalog, take full advantage of the traffic you're going to be getting, improving your listings, rolling out new channel specific strategies, things like that, using data, data from your suppliers or other data sources to kind of improve on those strategies. And then we'll get with Drew on the kind of the agency side, more kind of the marketing, web design side, talking about how to really make sure your website's optimized and ready to go, and a few of the other marketing and website design tips and tricks he's got to wrap us up. So with that, once again, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for joining. I'm really excited for this, to have all these different perspectives and see if we can add a lot of value for the merchants out there. Cool. So let's jump right in. Maggie, you're kicking us off. I'll go ahead and I'll be the Vanna White. Let me know as we go through different slides and push us through.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm Maggie Barnett, the COO of Ship Hero. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the supply chain, but also what you can do to actually help. Because we know it's a mess and we can't change a lot of the stuff that's happening in the ports. But what you can do with your warehouses and kind of helping your customers through this journey so that you can have the best Black Friday, Cyber Monday ever. So we're going to go over some big ideas first, then new and expanding trends, supply chain strain, just give you some stats around that. Warehouse automation. This is where we think we can help a lot because there's still time, even though we're under 100 days left. Error reductions, because when you reduce errors, you don't have to ship things a second time, which is good. And then route optimization, it's a little bit about carriers and selection of carriers. So let's get right into it, Vanna. The next slide, please. Sorry, Travis, I had to do it once. Okay, so the biggest thing we're seeing right now is people shopping early. Ship Hero, we process over 5 billion in GMV a year, so we have a ton of data. And what we're seeing is the people are already shopping. They're nervous. And some of the reasons they're nervous, and you've probably heard this from your non-D2C friends, my mom's concerned about the supply chain. My trainer is concerned about the supply chain. All of these regular consumers know that there's empty shelves and that there's, cargo ships sitting in the port of Long Beach. The fact that they know makes them think, oh my gosh, I have to buy earlier. So part of that is good because it'll kind of ease all of the volume from those like Cyber 5 days that usually happen because we're seeing stuff get purchased now. So just keep that in mind that people are shopping early. You're going to have to get inventory in as soon as possible to start to get that wallet at the beginning of this cycle. So that's like the first thing that we're seeing, and it's already starting. Cyber 5, this is kind of a new term. So just so that you're in the know, it's not just Black Friday, Cyber Monday anymore. People are shopping throughout. And we also know that when people shop, they're not just like purchasing right away. They're really shopping. They're perusing, they're checking out their options. So even when we say they're starting to shop, I think it was only 4% of people knew what they were going to buy when they started their journey. So you have a good shot of getting them early, especially as new and emerging brands. Like you have a shot now. You have social media, really leverage that retargeting and getting out there early. The third thing that we're seeing is buy now, pay later. This has been around for a few years, but there's been a huge uptick in installs for Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm and Sezzle and the like. So if you're a merchant, why not offer this? Because consumers are getting very savvy with how they're going to spend. If they're spending early, they're going to start to even spend smarter. So they're going to say, I don't have to pay for this now. It's layaway for e-commerce. It doesn't hurt to have it. Install one of these applications, because you don't want to have spent so much to acquire a customer and then lose them just because you didn't give this option. So those are some of the new and repeating trends that we're seeing. On the left-hand side here, you'll see like the COVID repercussions. That's just, we're not going to get out of COVID strain for 3 to 7 years probably. And that's only going to be after we add more regional carriers, add more warehousing, add more networks of 3PLs. It's going to be a while, add more robotics. So there's just always going to be that stress there. And then error reduction. Because of all this strain, we're going to need to reduce errors, and we're going to do that through warehouse automation and then last mile optimization. So that's kind of, again, what we're going to be touching on. So Travis, the next slide will dig into some stats. So 33 cargo ships were stuck in the port in July 2021. When I checked yesterday, it was 90. So the problem's not getting better, even though they've gone to weekends and 24-hour bringing, actually unloading. So they're really trying in these ports to help merchants and, supply chain to get it off these ships and into trucks, but it's really backed up. And again, we can't always control those things. So we're going to walk through what we can control. Another part that you need to understand, that with all this strain in the ports, all of a sudden, all this inventory is going to come in and you're going to need freight. And the spot pricing is out of this world right now. We're seeing 3, 6, 8x. It's a commodity. It's going to keep going up. Make sure you're passing on your freight charges to your consumers, or if you're the 3PL, passing it on to the right person, because otherwise you're going to have to eat it. You have to know that freight is not your friend this year. It's going to be expensive. So just something to keep in mind. Last thing that you should know, Australia, if Australia is in your market, make sure you understand what you're charging for that shipping. Since USPS is not delivering there right now, you should probably look at DHL and make sure you can get on board with them as soon as possible. Because otherwise you're going to do a FedEx, UPS, and you're going to be paying a lot more. So again, the biggest thing that I'm trying to highlight here is understanding where your extra costs are going to be and who you can pass those to. Are you going to increase prices? You're going to have to do something. So some of the other things that you can do to keep costs down are warehouse automation. 2 pieces. Physical is easy, so I'm going to hit that one first. Auto baggers, like depending on what you ship, like are you shipping in poly mailers? Are you shipping with boxes? Having conveyor belts, having auto tapers, having auto labelers, all of these things take time to set up. And again, it's tough with the supply chain because it's hard to find conveyor belts right now. It's hard to find a lot of these products. So if you really need them because you know that your shipping profile, what I mean by that is the items that you're shipping off the most can leverage this type of physical automation, then try to get your hands on some used equipment. There is used equipment out there. Trying to buy new is going to be really, really difficult. So again, the first step I always like to take when I'm working with a customer is what are you doing the most that you can automate that without a human? Like if you can actually use an auto bagger, use it. So that's kind of the first thing, is what you have the most of. And the physical stuff, like I said, it's going to be tough to get your hands on it at this point in the game, but there are certain folks that are selling them used. So it's worth a shot taking a look. The next piece is software automation. And what I like to tell people who don't have a WMS and they're shipping over 1,000 orders a month or have over 50 SKUs is you should probably be using a WMS. Don't be scared by the WMS and you're like, I don't want to spend $1,000 or $2,000 a month on this. I can just print labels. I just need my labels. You're going to save the money by getting a WMS in-house. And some of the ways you do that with your software automation is by setting automation rules. For example, if you have one SKU that is all bulk ship, you're now able to bulk ship. We have a customer in Las Vegas, Nevada that does oral care. It's a subscription service, very high volume. When they were just printing labels off of a station, they moved to our bulk ship feature and saved over 40% in warehouse operation costs. A huge savings. They invested $2,000 a month in our software and ended up saving, $16,000 a month. So it's worth it. I know it always sounds kind of scary. It's going to be a big lift, but you don't have to use all the WMS to really get the most out of it. Some of the other things you can do with software automation is routing certain types of orders to certain types of pickers. So say you have a t-shirt, but you also sell a large air conditioner. That'd be an odd thing to sell both of those, but let's just pretend. And you have all these orders coming in. If I have a tote, I don't want to have to put a big air conditioner in a small tote that's made for a t-shirt. So by separating those SKUs with automation rules and applying that to certain orders, you're going to save a lot of time, because now you don't have a warehouse team member walking around with the wrong type of cart, with the wrong type of tote. So all of these little things make a big difference. And even if you can't get your product in, these are ways to save time that you can control. And that's what I'm trying to help with, are what you can control within your four walls. So that's software and physical. So the next part that we like to look at when we talk about supply chain, and again, the things that we can control, are error reduction. Every time you send out the wrong product, you're probably losing money. So being able to have the fail safes in the backup, whether it's barcode scanning at the pick and at the pack, or barcode scanning when you're placing inventory on the shelves, this is huge, because you lose money most of the time, depending on your margins, when you have to reship something because you shipped a small instead of an extra small. So having a WMS put in will alleviate a lot of that stress around missed ships. Inventory management. I've gone into warehouses where I was also on their Shopify store trying to purchase something, and I was like, wait, I really saw this there's this great blue sweater in the back, and it's not on your site. And he's like, oh no, we have 50 of these. And of course, they didn't even know that they had the 50 sweaters. So it wasn't pushing up to Shopify and wasn't listed. So they're taking up space. He's purchased inventory with his money. It's sitting on his shelf, taking up space, which costs money. And since the inventory was wrong, it wasn't listed on the Shopify site. So he can never move it. That's just such a waste. And he's marketing for it. So knowing what your inventory management, having inventory management be correct is so key. And usually it's only key if you have a WMS to really support that as well. So you're pushing up the right numbers, you know what's in your warehouse at any given time. That also leads into forecasting. We integrate with a number of different applications. One of our favorite is Inventory Planner, and they forecast what you need to buy, because with all these supply chain delays right now, you need to start early. You need to get your products. You need to know your sales velocity based on SKUs. In addition, you can start to see that there's like zero velocity on certain SKUs. Your manufacturer might not even be able to give you all the inventory you need. So you might just want to focus on those top 20 SKUs that result in 80% of your sales. And that's what forecasting can help you with. So again, this leads back into the supply chain, because you need to know what product is moving fast so you can order it ahead of time. And it'll also create an automatic purchase order. So that saves time when that inventory hits your dock. The last piece around the WMS is storage optimization. Warehouse space is really tight right now. Anyone trying to sign a 55,000 to a 500,000 square foot lease in any of the prime cities, be it Vegas, Pennsylvania, Dallas, anywhere on the Southeast, it's very difficult. So it's expensive to have square footage. Or if you're just working out of your garage, like you want to make the most of it, if it's a 5,000 to 10,000 square foot kind of space. So having a WMS with guided put away helps with this. Also being able to set locations within your warehouse so that you can pick potentially from a pallet location, not just pick from bins. Having that flexibility is really important. Again, it saves you time in the warehouse when you're telling pickers where to go to make sure that they can actually pick the item. I've seen pickers get a pick sheet and they're sent to a random aisle where the product is actually, 3 pallets, 3 tiers up. they shouldn't be sent there. That's going to take a ton of time to take that pallet down and actually have them pick it. So again, where we can save costs, we need to save costs. So that's the WMS benefits. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is route optimization. Everyone on this webinar might be different in scale. So you probably have different carriers that you prefer. I work with all the carriers, whether it be it UPS, FedEx, they're the kind of the duopoly, and USPS. I really encourage you all to check out regionals, Lone Star Overnight, GSL. These types of companies are really coming into the forefront. The Axle Hires, Grand Husky. You can email me later for where your region is. They're getting very competitive, and you can negotiate rates with them, but also get good service. Like, it's not just about UPS and FedEx anymore. So when you're thinking through how you're going to get packages to your customer, don't just think about the standard ways. There's a lot of options out there. It's getting close to that point where you need to make that decision now in the season, but come Q1, you can always get set up for next year. So some of the things you're thinking about with route optimization is increased visibility for your consumer. Make sure that when you're packing that item and that label goes on, that tracking number gets to your consumer, because otherwise they're sitting there and they're like, was this shipped? Was it not? Like, having that tracking number is so important to have that pushed up. Faster delivery times. If you have a solid WMS, like our WMS allows for rate quoting. So you could put in the parameters. I need this there in 3 days, and I need it for the cheapest label possible, or I only want to spend $10. And it'll go through all your carrier options that you've loaded in and pick the best option for you that's the most cost effective. These things, again, are going to save you money. They're going to save you time, and you're not trying to make that decision in your head every time you're printing a label. You need to automate all of that. One of the other things you can do if you're a larger company is we're seeing a lot of buy online, pick up in store. With some of our very large brands, what they do is when an order comes in, there's a couple of options that the consumer can go pick it up in store. But if they want it shipped to them, they can then have a list of what it's going to cost to have it for same day, next day, 2 day, 3 day. What's cool, after they pick that information goes to the brand. And from there, the brand can route that order either to the nearest warehouse or nearest retail store. If it's the nearest retail store, we've turned that retail store into a mini warehouse. So the person at the retail store can actually print out that label, put it on, and ship it ground. So if they're in Manhattan at the James Purse store and I need it here in Williamsburg, instead of spending, $15 to get it from their California warehouse, they can ship it directly from their Soho location. It's going to be $8 and I get it the next day. So there's a lot of creative things people are doing that you should start to think about, like how you can leverage multi-warehouse, how you can leverage a retail store. And really, when you're doing that, it's all about the WMS and being able to route those orders. So, and then that's it. Travis, no, that's good. Yeah. The last thing I was going to say is, please don't guarantee carrier delivery times, because carriers do not guarantee it for you come peak season. So don't make sure you have that drop dead down, that date for your customers.
Thanks, Maggie. And it's interesting. You brought up the regionals versus, it's no longer just UPS, FedEx. I've been seeing that a lot, people saying the same thing and echoing that. You saw what happened, just to your last point, what happened last year where a couple of those carriers were just leaving pickups, at the brick and mortars. They weren't picking them up. They were not fulfilling. So having those regionals in your back pocket seems like a good idea.
You got to do it. And their technology is getting a lot better. Regionals always had a bad rap that they didn't have good technology, but I'm telling you, it's different now. They're able to send, the proof of delivery, the PODs in the API. And we're finding great success with that. We have a really cool new app called ShipScore you should check out, where if you download it and attach it to your Shopify store, you can see how long it took to fulfill the order and how long it actually took to get there. Because most folks who have a carrier relationship don't get a QBR with them, so they don't even know if their carrier's, meeting their SLA or if there's any issues in transit. So if you download ShipScore, attach it, you'll be able to get all the alerts if something's going wrong with that delivery. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. I'll try to follow that. That was really informative. I appreciate that, Maggie. And, really, like I said earlier, we're going to kind of switch to the Flxpoint side, which is a little more focused on the drop shipping side. We work with Ship Hero today, a little bit further upstream. If you were envision an order coming in from your sales channel, Flxpoint would typically be there in the middle as that central hub to determine, are you shipping it to via one of your Ship Hero warehouses, or are you going to be sending it to a drop ship partner, right? And so we kind of sit a little bit further up. We help kind of optimize prior to it getting to a Ship Hero warehouse and your Ship Hero software. So yeah, really what we'll be talking about is kind of expanding your product catalog, how that can really help you in the Black Friday, the Cyber 5, as I just learned today, how it can kind of help you there and really, optimizing the traffic you're going to get, which Drew's going to talk a little bit about, and making sure that you can optimize that your catalog, make sure it's actually in as many channels as possible. Your listings are, improved from what you have currently from a data perspective or optimized on each channel. Really kind of talking about your order and your fulfillment workflows. Like we mentioned, we're kind of in that a little bit upstream when it comes to your ordering. If you have a more distributed fulfillment approach where you might have a third-party warehouse via Ship Hero, you might have your own warehouse, and you also might work dropship partners. How do you optimize those fulfillment workflows? And then, all of those combined, how do you make sure you're tested thoroughly so that you've actually have things ready to go for when that rush does begin? So starting with expanding your product catalog, this is one of, we deal with a lot of retailers, resellers, reselling a branded product. From that perspective, that the name of the game is really, curating and getting a good catalog for your customers, but also expanding your catalog to go into other market segments, to add more to your current market segment and make sure you can increase that average order volume, things like that. So that's a big value of dropship in general, and typically the name of the game when it comes to retail. But it means even more in the Black Friday, Cyber Monday kind of timeline. So, really what this means is adding new suppliers, and then to even bring in your existing suppliers that you may not have worked with in the past or only buy a couple of SKUs from, leveraging a dropship platform to bring in those products and get those into your system and then eventually up on your website or sales channels. And then from there, the integration of new suppliers into your platforms, right? Moving along that left to right kind of flow. And then adding supplemental products to your existing product niche, right? So not just increasing the amount of products that you have in your camping and outdoor space, but then maybe you open up to more of the the outdoor cooking space, right? And add a whole new line of cookware for outdoors, not just the tents and the fishing rods or whatever it might be that you're currently going towards. The benefit of that really is people are out right now searching, they're online, they're looking for gifts for their family, right? I mean, even now, people are searching more just from a Halloween perspective in the apparel market. So people are out and online and they're looking around. So how do you get them in your funnel? Dropship, often much lower margin than if you're a brand with your own product or you're buying wholesale as a retailer. But what's it cost to acquire a customer? And right now, they're the most customers out that you're gonna see online, the most activity. And even if you're breaking even or only taking 10 to 15 to 20% margin on a product, having them on your website, getting them into your funnel, have them on their email newsletter list, that's a huge piece and a huge value add on adding the supplemental products that you might not have got that customer into your funnel prior or at all. And so that's a good way of kind of looking at it. And then lastly, the ability to kit and bundle products. People are looking for gifts now this time of year. So factoring in, you might not buy, like I said, the cookware side of the camping. That might be something outside of your traditional approach on your website or what you sell on Amazon. But bringing that in and maybe bundling into a camping starter kit or something like that, it's a good example of what we see from customers doing, not only just from a gift perspective, but just in general on Amazon, getting a new ASIN and be able to own your own ASIN. Kitting and bundling is a great way of doing that. And so it allows you to stand out. Right now with all the traffic on your site and Amazon's site, you might get some traction there more so than you would have in the past. And so you've got more products, you maybe added new categories because you're taking advantage of the traffic, you're kitting and bundling and getting more creative there. The next step is really to look at your existing products, look at your existing catalog and say, what can I do to improve my product listing, right? So we work with a lot of people in the electronics reselling industry, right? So reselling HP and Dell and Logitech and companies like that, brands like that, which traditionally in that industry and other industries that are similar have really poor product data. The brands have given you, here's how many I have in stock, feel free to drop ship them, and here's the model number, right? Titles are maybe model number plus brand, whatever it might be. You obviously cannot list that on your website. You can't really get that up onto certain marketplace platforms that might not automate the listing and the content for you. So leveraging a company like we work with a company called Eatalize, leveraging data providers, bringing it into one central system, leveraging other suppliers that might have better product data and merging those products together is another way that you can look to augment and improve the product information. So, really focusing on the product. We talk about all this new traffic showing up for the first time they're ever going to visit your retail store online or, your Amazon store, right? A good first impression. Make sure you have multiple images. You've got a good title. Really kind of focusing on the product information management and leveraging, automation systems like Flxpoint or whatever it might be, or other rich content providers like an Eatalize, getting that data in, centralized, improved, and optimized is a great way to make a first impression on Black Friday and then throughout the next couple of days. And that's what we talked about there, right? That add rich content from a data source. Not it's not very in electronics. It's kind of like a need to have. A lot of people know about it. There's others in grocery we've seen. There's providers out there that will provide more like labels and what's organic, what's non-GMO, what's vegan, things like that. There's a lot of data sources out there. If you haven't looked into it, you might have a little bit, enough time this year, if not for sure next year, where you can really improve your product catalog, your existing one through these data sources. But you can also, look to add a lot more products more quickly, like we talked about in that first slide, by using something like a rich content data source. And so Maggie kind of touched on this a little bit from an in-house warehousing perspective or third-party warehousing perspective, but just in general, organizing your fulfillment area, getting that ready and prepped. I think that's something that Maggie touched on as well. But even kind of moving inventory between warehouses, right? So we talked about a lot of our customers are retailers. You may have some of your product in a third-party warehouse like a Ship Hero. You might have some in your own warehouse. You might typically look to leverage your dropship partners for certain SKUs. I think this is where you can really look back at past sales data and say, we traditionally dropshipped this category. Let's go ahead and buy up a good bit because let's get prepared. So that's kind of what we talked about, maybe splitting out and sending more into the Ship Hero warehouse because they've got one on the West Coast and you're mostly on the East Coast. It's a good time to be doing that right now, right? Really before Halloween is the time to be doing that kind of stuff. Like we said, stock up on the products that you're in demand. So look at your dropship numbers. Another reason why dropship is so great, right? You can forecast on what you've been selling, and there's a lot of value in that. A lot of the systems today are built around forecasting what you have been selling. But if you're never buying another category because it doesn't make sense to warehouse it, dropship allows you to really put a product listing up and sell it for months, for years, whatever it might be, and test out that market to determine, can I really push this? Maybe you don't sell enough to bring in wholesale, but come Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you're probably going to see that demand obviously pick up with everything else. And then the automation we talk about, whether it's in your own warehouse or within a distributed order management system like ours, make sure that stuff's in place. And we'll talk about, how we're going to want to test that. And for those, right, really from a brand or even a retailer perspective, multi-channel has been a strategy that is almost table stakes now. So you may be selling on Amazon, eBay, your own Shopify store, BigCommerce store, whatever it might be. Even to your own resellers, if you're on the brand side, right? Having a strategy in place for each one of those. Dynamic pricing. Amazon, people are buying. Things are going out of stock a lot quicker. This is an opportunity here, and not a lot of people talk about this specifically for the Cyber 5, but they talk about it in general, is the idea of putting it up a little bit more expensive on Amazon, because that's where the market is. You got the fees. It's a little bit easier to acquire the customer, and then cheaper on your own site, right? Taking advantage of that while people are searching around, using that leveraging that as a tool to be seen as cheaper on Amazon, especially for cheaper than Amazon when you can do it for certain specific, if you're a brand or if you are a retailer that has a specific exclusive with a brand. Typically tough to do most of the time, but if you're going to take advantage and you're trying to position yourself, you could do that during this Cyber 5 window. And then, when it comes to pricing right now, the use of a repricer on marketplaces specifically, there are some out there that do it, across your website and look at other websites, but Amazon for sure, there's companies like Excelco and Inform.co and things like that, where if you don't have a repricer in place, making sure that at least for Amazon, if not other channels, you're dynamically pricing based on the market if you're reselling the same products as others, right? If you're a reseller of Logitech mice or HP laptop monitors, other people are going to be selling that exact same product. Make sure that you're staying competitive, and then as they go out of stock, which they will, then be able to bump up the pricing to make a little bit more margin. So something to think about where you might not do the same on your own specific website. So having the tools in place to do that on a per channel basis. And then testing, like anything else, before a go live, before the true stress test shows up, come November, having a robust system in place to handle the major increase in orders. What can you do to test and import orders and test the system, whatever it might be, run some mock tests, depending on your system and your setup. That could be accomplished a couple different ways. Ensure all connections, right? Go through these checks. Everyone gets busy with the standard day-to-day. Can you charge someone in your company to go through and really click through as a customer and push through things? Do you want to bulk import a ton of orders into your system and make sure that they're handled correctly? Do some actual test cases. Like we're in software, we do this all the time where we have automation tests. We also have people manually doing tests and going through and checking things. So it takes some time to plan it out, and it takes some resources and people to get behind it. But this is the time to do it to make sure that you're going to be fine come late November. Test orders, advanced things like that, like we just talked about. But that's kind of the high level. Like I said, some of the strategies, one to improve the catalog, but improving the catalog, you need to make sure that you've got good data. There's rich content data sources out there that you want to make that good first impression, because as we've said, you're going to see people coming to your site that you haven't before. And then when they do, let's make sure it works. Make sure you test things thoroughly to make sure that first impression goes through and you get the sale. Cool. Now I'm going to kick it over to Drew with PCR.
Thanks, Travis. So really what I'm going to be talking about, I run a e-commerce digital agency, done it for 14 years, work with a lot of fun brands in the space like Mudwater to Fathead, to did a lot of work with the Los Angeles Chargers, the NFL team. And what we focus on is how to drive more revenue off your existing audience. And that's primarily through conversion rate optimization for your site, and then email marketing and SMS, primarily through, a Klaviyo or a HubSpot. So a lot of, kind of familiarity there. Today, we're going to focus mostly on, kind of the website. And so, 5 things that we really want to, stress as you're coming into, as Travis mentioned, a ton of traffic coming to the site, that you really need to make sure that you're optimizing that as much as possible. Prepare ahead of time. What are the things that you can be doing today? So when that traffic does spike, you're in a really good position that you're converting as much of that traffic into either email subscribers or customers as possible. Going to talk a lot around, I say this all the time, you're dealing with people online with the attention span of about a second grader. So you want to remove as much friction as possible. People are inundated with ads, with kids, with all these things, especially working from home. So how do you make it as easy as possible for someone to purchase that? So some tips there. I think we've talked a lot about shipping and warehouse. I'm going to talk more around the communication and making sure you get ahead of that. I think sometimes brands are nervous or retailers are nervous about the delays and they hide it. that's going to cause a really upset customer and have them not coming back. So we really want to spend some time on how do you get ahead of it and over communicate. Even if you don't have exact deadlines, start giving a range in the very beginning, and then start testing now. I think while the traffic's not quite as high, seeing what messages resonate, what content resonates is going to be really critical. And then just an overall content strategy and kind of a carrot at the end. It's going to be talking specifically around utilization of gift cards if you're running into inventory issues. So preparing, stat here, if they're not finding what they are able to see very quickly, talking about 3 seconds load or more, they abandon kind of right out of the gate. There's another stat where your conversion rate decreases by 10% for every single second it takes in addition to load. And so we've done a lot of these site speed audits for clients, but there's a lot of easy things working with your developer. Or if you're on Shopify, they've done a lot with upgrading the themes, but images not being optimized with kind of alt text or not really kind of compressed where it populates. It takes too much time. Big banners, big images. You really want to try and condense that as much as possible. Lazy load is a really easy kind of plug in feature that you can put in. Essentially, all it does is as you're scrolling, it will start loading the images, but it doesn't do it anything below the fold. So it's just a really easy way to mitigate some of the long load speeds or kind of site speed itself. We see a ton of extra scripts running on the site. If you think about any software technology that you've used over the years that you're not currently using, a lot of times you forget to remove that, and it's actually causing. It has to fire to populate into Facebook, to populate into Klaviyo, your SMS provider, your heat map tracking. So you want to remove those, the ones that you aren't currently utilizing as much as possible. And then just double check, kind of with the payment processor with those increases. We have had, unfortunately, some nightmare scenarios where they're not able to, kind of process, kind of payments because the processor's overwhelmed. So, just trying to mitigate that as much as possible. A very easy way to check this is Google Site Speed Analyzer. You can enter in your URL. It prints out a score to see where you're at. And don't forget mobile and desktop. A lot of people sometimes just focus on desktop, but you were seeing as much as 60-70% of traffic now coming from a mobile device. So being able to optimize that where site speed is even more critical because they're used to kind of the Instagram and Facebook and the social media. They want to be able to see their information really quickly. So yeah, removing friction as much as possible. We just did this as a relaunch. It's a children's clothing line, and what I see a lot of brands, a common mistake is, they have their best sellers maybe on their homepage, but you have to individually click on every single product to then add it to your cart. Maybe you have a returning customer, or maybe they've already heard of you, from a referral or a friend. So they already know what they want. They want to go on there and be able to purchase and do it as quickly as possible. Make the add to cart as simple and easy from the homepage, to be able to do, but also to one click, kind of upsells directly within the cart is another easy thing that you can, kind of turn on in your Shopify store. We see average order value increase by like 20-30% just by adding that one feature. And then, the sticky add to cart. This is especially important on mobile. And what I mean by that is you're on a product page, you want to see more product details, you're kind of scrolling through, you want to read a few reviews, and then you're ready to purchase. Well, you got to scroll all the way back to the top. So a little add to cart that follows the user along, especially on mobile, can be absolutely critical. We see conversion rate increase by 0.5%, as high as 1% on that product page just by adding that one unique feature. So try and mitigate any type of like extra steps, extra friction, kind of in that shopping process, and kind of go through it. There's a lot of tools that can help you with this. A Crazy Egg or Hotjar, where you can actually see the heat map tracking. You can see our user recording when they're trying to get to something and it's not clickable. So it's really helpful to give you a little bit more insight. Or userrecordings.com, like they'll actually have someone do a voiceover and give you, kind of feedback directly on your site. So again, I can speculate, I can give recommendations, but we always want to have some sort of data to be able to validate or back that up too. We talked a lot about shipping, and so you really want to let them know what's going on, and get ahead of it as much as possible. I'm a conversion rate guy. This can negatively impact conversion, but you have to look at it holistically with the business of repeat purchase rate, customer reviews, lifetime value. And so even though it might make an impact, but looking at every time they can have exposure with your site, how are you getting ahead of this? Because there's inevitably, to Maggie's point, there's 90 carriers, shipping delays are going to happen. It's just the nature of what's, going on in the market right now. We're not all Amazon that can deliver something, the same day. So the more that you over communicate that, I think the better the user experience, and at least you're getting ahead versus expecting one thing, they purchase, and then you're not communicating, and then it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out before they actually receive this. And then you get the negative reviews, then you impact repeat purchase rate and everything else too. So really trying to over communicate that through your site-wide banner, through your product detail pages, even when they're in the cart, just to kind of harp on that as much as possible. And then if you're able to, it's a little bit more logistics involved, but dynamic shipping to incentivize that checkout based on when they're going to be able to receive it if they order today versus delay, especially as this gets farther and farther along in the holiday season. If you're not going to be able to ship it to them, I think just letting them know is going to be critical. So start testing, test, as much as possible. We do a ton of these experiments, on the site, on the product pages, within email, see what messages are most resonating. And even, you can test it in specific, kind of holiday messaging, as well, and seeing what, as people are buying sooner and sooner this season, because of worries around if they're going to get their purchases in time for, the holidays. So, we tested different offers from percentage discount, from a dollar amount, incentivizing by free shipping. What are like different tiered offers that they'd be able to do? Do we, kind of add on, additional gifts, kind of with that purchase? So knowing what is going to incentivize the customer, what's really going to lead them to that conversion. If you can be doing that right now and setting up these small experiments, highly recommend. The easiest, most cost-effective way to do that is through like a Google Optimize. You can go into like Optimizely or AB Tasty, but there's a software cost associated with that. Or we do a lot of testing within Klaviyo for pop-ups. Seeing if that $20 off versus 10% off, which one actually converts, is one level. But then you want to look maybe a little bit deeper. How many products did they purchase? What was the average order value? So think as broad as you can when you're running these tests, and then get very specific with what, broad strategy, very specific, kind of with the experiments that you're actually going through and running, but do that now, so that you're not, guessing to see which message is going to resonate when you have all this traffic coming in. A decrease in conversion rate by 0.5% or 1% can have a huge impact, on your business. So, really thinking about that and doing it as sooner rather than later. And then, the last, I'd say like kind of two-part is, what's the holiday, centric, kind of strategy. Don't think of just about like merchandising and product, but what are the, the blogs to, the imagery to the emails that are all going to correspond. We're already building out. We started building out those campaigns, a few weeks ago in preparation for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So, I think you can't get ahead of it too much. And the more that you put thought into the content of the different areas, from paid media, how you're originally going to reach them, to your site itself, and what are the banners going to be, what is the design, the imagery, the blogs that might help, kind of support that of like editorial and voice, all the way to, kind of products and merchandising, to like post-purchase flow. So, think about the entire user journey. The more that you can coordinate your efforts and streamline that, the more effective all your campaigns are going to be, the more effective your website, your paid media, your social channels, your blog, kind of things like that. So, I think, and there's opportunities to even introduce like landing pages and things like that are part of these like holistic campaigns, and you can build those really fast on a Shogun or Unbounce or even Nacelle. on the headless commerce side. So, build that allows you to have a little bit more, control with the tests, as we talked about earlier, along with, centralizing some of the content. One thing that we've had a lot of success with is actually through gift cards. So you have all this traffic, whether it's paid or organic, that's coming. Maybe your product's out of stock, or you're just not going to be able to meet shipping deadlines, but you still want to capture their, attention and develop a relationship. So gift cards are really, really effective. It's a huge industry, obviously, for a lot of like the major brands. But now, with platforms like Rise and things like that, you can create your own gift cards pretty easily and get that on your site, so that even if you, maybe it's a last minute shopper and you're not going to be able to get the product to them in time, you can still develop a relationship with them and be able to sell the gift cards as, purchases for friends and family, or, kind of for themselves, so they could apply later on. And then I think too, this builds up a lot of a really strong, Q1 strategy of, their wish list, the out of stock, what they've, the gift cards. If you have a significant amount of people in your database that have purchased those, you can leverage, gift ideas. If they purchase $50 to $100 to $250, the products that are going to best correspond with that, to make it a little bit more contextual, a little more personal, a little bit more, kind of segmented too. So don't sleep on gift cards. It's a great way, I think, to still capitalize on the traffic. If you're scared that, you're already out of inventory, you're not going to meet shipping, it's just a really easy way to, kind of drive some revenue for your business and finish out, at the end of the quarter really strong. And that's, everything from my side. If you got questions, or like I said, you want to look at the site speed, feel free to shoot me an email. Happy to, kind of take a look. But yeah, Travis, really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, certainly. No, I really like the gift card part, because it's one of those things where, you might not think about it. If you've only been selling for a year, 2 years, you might not have got to the gift card side of things, maybe, whatever it might be, but just the idea that it helps with conversion, right? I mean, like, what people don't really like gift cards. I'm not really a gift card type brand. Maybe that's an argument at some point, but like, just really the idea of, there's not enough time. You're shipping at a 7-day window and they need it in 3 or 4 days, whatever. Helping someone convert like that, building a relationship, and then, just really, or they can't find anything, and it is purely a gift, and they can't find anything, or they can't make a decision, right? That's the whole thing about conversion, is allowing them to make that decision. So, and then really focusing on it this time of year, maybe putting it in the banner, or, putting it more prominent, makes a lot of sense. So I like that. And really a lot of the things you talked about were just good practices that, hopefully Black Friday, Cyber Monday can put you in gear to actually do. And then there's a lot of those you could keep for, going forward, and they're going to help you convert.
Absolutely.
Awesome stuff. So no, really appreciate it. We do have a couple questions that came through. One of the first ones was, it looks like, Maggie, you mentioned a bulk ship feature, and I think we just want to hear, like, explain that a little bit more on what that bulk ship. You mentioned an oral company, that oral care company that reduced something by 40%. There was a question about what the bulk ship feature did.
Yeah. So what bulk ship does is, so say you have 1,000 orders for the day that you have to get out, and 600 of those orders contain SKU A and SKU B. We'll actually pull if you go to the bulk ship page, it'll pull all those orders for you. So instead of having a picker go and pick each of those individually, like SKU A, SKU B, SKU A, SKU B, and putting them on carts and going throughout their regular walking process, you have one picker go over and pull 600 SKU A and 600 SKU B, bring them to a packing station with, a bulk ship team, and we'll print out all the labels and all the invoices. And then you can pick and pack in one long assembly line. And it saves a ton of time, and it's super easy. And at the same time, it's doing rate shopping for each one of those based on the address and the location and the SLA. So if it's overnight, it doesn't matter. So your whole assembly line is stacked. So say it costs you $1.75 to usually pick and pack that order, it's going to cost you like 80 cents by using this bulk ship. And the key to it, Travis, and I'm not sure who asked the question, a lot of people can do this with just one SKU, but us having the ability to show if there's multi SKUs that have that bulk ship, maybe it's just 60 of them or 30 or 80. You don't want them going through the same process of just a picker and packer, a picker to tote. So it aggregates all those for you.
Got it.
I hope that answers the question.
No, I think it does, and yeah, it's super helpful. And I think it just sounds like warehouse workers. You roll that out, that they're probably like loving that first day, right when they get
and like on the hero board, which shows like how much has been packed. I mean, you're just jamming through things, and yeah, it works really well, and you still keep a very good rate because you're scanning it before you don't scan each one into the poly mailer or into the box, but you scan it at the beginning to have a quality assurance check. So we've built that in as well.
Cool. All right. Second one we got here is, how would I get started finding and adding more products? So yeah, I guess I'll take that one. Obviously, that we kind of harped on that in the first slide, the Flxpoint side. So right now, depending on what your product mix is, right? So one, you can start with going to your existing suppliers and just understanding what you might not be buying, asking for one, if they drop ship, if they don't, updated catalog, things like that. That's one option. Two, you can look for new suppliers. You can go around, start, Googling obviously is the first step, but just in general, there's other marketplaces out there. Tundra is a wholesale marketplace. You can find new suppliers there, determine which ones drop ship, if that's a requirement for you or not, or just buy new, wholesale with low minimums. Fair, F-A-I-R-E, also can allow you filter down like the minimums on certain wholesale suppliers and the products that they have. The inventory source directory, if you're really looking for drop ship, going to inventorysource.com and looking for drop ship specific suppliers that might already be integrated through the inventory source software. There's also wholesale suppliers in there too to browse. Handshake is now owned by Shopify. It's been owned by Shopify for a year or so, or maybe two. That's another one. So Tundra, Fair, Inventory Source, Handshake, marketplaces like that are great to just kind of expand and look for new suppliers. But working with your original suppliers, the ones that you buy now from, it's always a good first step. And I've got one question, Drew. I'll just be curious, for you. You mentioned a bunch of really good, and I know you've got a lot of experience with a lot of large brands. Conversion rate. You mentioned probably half a dozen, almost a dozen different tactics. If you could pick one that you'd implement, not site speed, anything else. What's one of your favorite ones to implement for a company?
I'm going to go search bar. Even with limited SKUs, usually the percentage of traffic we see is as high as like 30 to 40% of total traffic utilize the search bar, and you get 3 to 5x higher conversion off of the search bar. So we've done this for like Vibe Organic, the little wellness shop company. They only had 6 products. So like, it's pretty easy. But the search, you could search by, ginger, turmeric, and then, the products come up. And so, especially if you're doing a lot with digital marketing, they might see an ad and then they land on that product page, but they don't know the full, kind of assortment of products. It's really, really, really effective to be able to drive higher conversion. Even if you think you don't have enough SKUs to warrant it, I would 100% get that installed as quickly as possible. You'll see a big spike in conversion there.
Cool. On the spot. Just hit it out of the park. Awesome. So everyone, appreciate you guys joining. You can see we've all got our personal emails down there. Love to hear from our customers, future customers, questions you've got, obviously on this topic. It doesn't have to be about our companies or our products or whatever. Always love talking shop. So feel free to drop us a note. I'm happy to talk. And thanks again for attending the webinar. Maggie, Drew, awesome stuff, guys. I really appreciate it.